The day my husband stopped speaking to me, I was wearing the green dress he bought me for our anniversary. Ironic, really. The dress I'd worn to meet another man was the last thing he ever complimented me on. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I destroyed the best thing in my life while convincing myself I was the one being neglected. My name is Victoria, and I used to be loved by a man who would have moved mountains for me. James. 6 feet of quiet strength. The kind of man who fixed things without being asked. Who remembered how I took my coffee after one date. Who still opened car doors after 7 years of marriage. The kind of man I threw away for someone who couldn't even spell my name right in his texts. But in my mind, James was the problem. Too predictable. Too steady. Too... there. Every morning at 6:45, he'd bring me coffee in bed. Every Friday, he'd text me at lunch asking what I wanted for dinner. Every Sunday, he'd suggest a walk in the park, and he'd hold my hand like we were still 25 and discovering each other. "Don't you want more?" my friend Natalie would ask during our wine nights. Recently divorced, bitter as burnt coffee, she had a way of making my contentment feel like settling. Excitement, passion, that butterflies in your stomach feeling? "I guess," I'd say, not admitting that James still gave me butterflies. Just quieter ones. The kind you stop noticing because they're always there. One night, after her 3rd glass, Natalie's mask slipped. "You know what Richard texted me last week? He's engaged. To his secretary. The one I was paranoid about." She traced the rim of her glass with a shaking finger. 12 years I had that man's devotion. Threw it away because some life coach convinced me I was settling. Now he's giving someone else the life I called boring. She looked at me then, really looked at me. "Don't be me, Victoria." But I heard what I wanted to hear. Not the warning, just confirmation that even good marriages could feel like cages. The firm where I worked had just landed the Morrison Hotels account. Our biggest win in 5 years. My boss, Sandra, threw a party on the rooftop of the Meridian building. All glass, city lights, and champagne that cost more than most people's car payments. I begged James to come. "Just for an hour," I said, fixing his tie in our bedroom mirror. "Show your face, let me show you off, then we can leave." He smiled that patient smile. "You know I hate these things." "I know, but I need you there." Looking back, I think I wanted him there as an anchor. Some part of me already knew what might happen if I went alone. The party was everything James hated. Loud, pretentious, full of people who measured worth in billable hours and car leases. He found a spot near the edge of the terrace, nursing one beer, watching me work the room. I should have stayed close to him. Should have introduced him to colleagues, made him feel included. Instead, I left him there like a coat I'd checked at the door. That's when Dylan appeared. Dylan Cade, the new accounts director from the Chicago office, 32, divorced, with the kind of confidence that comes from never hearing the word no. He wore his suit like armor and his smile like a weapon. I'd noticed him in meetings before. Who hadn't? He had this way of commanding a room just by walking into it, all sharp jawline and expensive watch, the kind of presence that made married women adjust their wedding rings. "You must be Victoria," he said, appearing at my elbow while I was mid-conversation with a client. "Sandra's told me you're the reason we landed Morrison." I felt the flush creep up my neck. "Team effort," I said. "Don't be modest. I've seen your campaigns. You're brilliant." The word hit differently than when James said it. When James called me brilliant, it felt like fact. Like describing the sky as blue. When Dylan said it, it felt like discovery. Like I was something rare he'd found. We talked for 20 minutes, then 30, then an hour. About work at first, then art. Then that restaurant in River North we'd both been to. Then books we'd read, wines we liked. He had a way of leaning in when I spoke, like every word mattered. His hand would graze my arm when he laughed, just enough contact to feel intentional. I kept glancing at James, expecting him to come over, to stake his claim, to do something, but he just stood there, nursing his beer like a lifeline, looking smaller by the minute. "Your husband's a lucky man," he said at one point, nodding toward James. I glanced over. James was still in the same spot, still holding the same beer, now checking his phone. He looked small, ordinary. A sensible sedan parked between Ferraris. "He is," I said, but the words felt hollow. Dylan smiled like he'd heard what I didn't say. "If you ever want to talk campaigns over dinner, I know a place that makes the best carbonara outside of Rome." "I'll keep that in mind," I said, knowing I'd already memorized his number from the office directory. When Dylan touched my arm again, letting his fingers linger while making some point about market penetration, I felt it. That spark, that danger, that thing I'd been telling myself was missing from my marriage. What I didn't feel was James watching from across the terrace. Didn't see him set down his beer, didn't notice him walk to the exit, didn't realize he'd left until I got his text 20 minutes later. Headed home, not feeling well. I should have followed him. Should have known something was wrong. James never left without saying goodbye. Instead, I felt relieved. Now I could stop pretending to split my attention. Dylan and I talked until the party ended, then stood by the elevator bank, neither wanting to be the first to press the button. "This was fun," he said. It was. "We should do it again sometime, maybe without 50 other people." "Maybe," I said, knowing I meant yes. I came home to find James already in bed, lights off. I expected questions, maybe anger. Instead, he was just quiet. When I slipped in beside him, he didn't turn toward me like he always did, didn't drape his arm over my waist. He just lay there, breathing steadily, a wall of silence already built between us. "Sorry I left early," he said into the darkness. "It's okay, you didn't miss much." Another lie added to the pile I'd started building. "I'm sure," he said, and something in his tone made my stomach clench. The next morning, everything changed. James was gone when I woke up. Unusual, since he always waited for our morning coffee together. No note, no text. When he came home from the gym, he moved through the house like I was furniture, polite when necessary, distant otherwise. "How'd you sleep?" I asked, trying to read his face. "Fine," he said, then walked past me to the shower. That was it. No kiss, no conversation about the day ahead, no normal, just nothing. At first, I thought he was sulking about the party. James could be sensitive about feeling out of place, and I'd abandoned him. I'd apologize, make his favorite dinner, and things would go back to normal. But they didn't. Days passed, and the silence grew. Not angry silence, that I could have handled. This was worse. This was absence. James moved through our life like he was checking off boxes. Wake up, gym, work, home, sleep, repeat. No deviations, no warmth, no us. I tried everything. Wore his favorite perfume, nothing. Made breakfast in just his old college t-shirt. He grabbed toast and left. Put on the playlist from our wedding. He turned it off and switched to a podcast. It was like trying to seduce a statue. "Are you mad at me?" I finally asked one night, after another dinner eaten in silence. He looked up from his plate, really looked at me for the first time in days. "No." "Then what is this?" "What's what?" "This," I gestured between us. "This distance. This coldness." He considered my words like they were in a foreign language. "I'm just focused on some things." "What things?" "Things I should have focused on a long time ago." The answer chilled me more than anger would have. Anger meant he still cared enough to fight. This was something else. I started trying harder. Cooked elaborate meals he ate without comment. Wore the lingerie he used to love, only to have him turn away. Suggested date nights he declined. Every effort met with politeness, but no warmth, like I was a pleasant stranger he happened to live with. Meanwhile, Dylan kept texting. Work questions at first, then articles he thought I'd like, then jokes, then thinking of you messages that made my phone feel like a live wire in my pocket. I told myself it was harmless. I was married, he knew that, we were just friends. But when James continued his campaign of polite indifference, when another Friday passed without our usual dinner ritual, when he started sleeping on his side of the bed like a border wall between us, Dylan's attention felt like water in a desert. "Lunch?" Dylan texted one Tuesday. "That Italian place you mentioned?" I stared at the message. Lunch was innocent. Colleagues had lunch. It didn't mean anything. "Sure," I typed back, ignoring the wedding ring that seemed heavier as I hit send. Lunch became a weekly thing, then twice weekly, then coffee before work, drinks after. Always in public, always professional, always with the undercurrent of something more. Dylan had a way of making me feel seen that James had stopped doing. He noticed my new haircut, complimented my presentations, remembered details from our conversations. One afternoon, after 3 glasses of wine at lunch, Dylan leaned across the table and said, "You know what your problem is?" "Tell me," I said, feeling loose and reckless. "You're wasted on him. A woman like you should be worshipped, not ignored." "He doesn't ignore me," I lied. "When's the last time he looked at you the way I'm looking at you right now?" I couldn't answer because Dylan was looking at me like I was a masterpiece he'd just discovered. Like I was precious, desired, worth fighting for. Everything James used to make me feel before he'd turned into a ghost haunting our house. "You're different than I expected," he said one evening over martinis. "How so?" "Smarter, funnier, more—" He paused, swirling his drink. "Unexpected." "My husband might disagree," I said, the words bitter on my tongue. "Then your husband's a fool." I should have defended James, should have shut down the conversation. Instead, I let Dylan's words wash over me like absolution. Yes, James was the fool. James was the one who'd stopped seeing me, stopped wanting me, stopped trying. That night, I came home late. Dylan had suggested one more drink, then another, to find James in the garage, looking through old boxes. "What are you doing?" I asked, leaning against the door frame. He didn't turn around. "Thinking." "About?" "Things." Always with the non-answers. The distance. The fucking silence that was driving me insane. "James, talk to me, please." He finally looked at me, and for a moment I saw something flicker in his eyes. Pain? Disappointment? But it was gone before I could name it. "There's nothing to say, Victoria." "There's everything to say. You've been acting like I don't exist for weeks." "Have I?" His voice was calm, measured. "Or have I just stopped pretending everything's fine?" My heart hammered. "What does that mean?" He turned back to the boxes. "It means what it means." I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make him react with anything other than this maddening calm. Instead, I stormed inside, poured a large glass of wine, and texted Dylan. "Rough night, need to vent. Want to talk about it? I can meet you." I looked at the message, then at my wedding ring, then at the closed garage door. "Yes," I typed. "Please." We met at a wine bar downtown, one of those dimly lit places designed for secrets. I told myself I just needed a friend, someone who'd listen without judgment. But when Dylan's hand covered mine across the table when he said, "You deserve better than someone who ignores you," when he leaned in close enough that I could smell his cologne, I knew I was lying to myself. "I should go," I said, not moving. "Should you?" His thumb traced circles on my wrist. "When's the last time he made you feel wanted?" The answer was painful. I couldn't remember. James used to look at me like I hung the moon. Now he barely looked at me at all. "This is wrong," I whispered. "Is it? You're sitting in a bar with a friend because your husband won't talk to you. What's wrong about that?" Everything. Nothing. I didn't know anymore. Dylan walked me to my car, and when he kissed me in the parking garage, just a soft press of lips that lasted a heartbeat too long, I let him, told myself it meant nothing, told myself James had pushed me to this, told myself a lot of things that felt true in the moment and poisonous later. I drove home shaking, expecting to find James waiting up, ready to confront me. Instead, the house was dark, our bedroom door closed. He was asleep, or pretending to be. I showered off Dylan's cologne and slipped into bed, careful not to touch James, afraid he'd somehow know. But he didn't stir, didn't reach for me like he used to. Just kept breathing steadily, maintaining his wall of silence that had driven me into another man's arms. The next morning, I woke to find he was already gone again. But this time, there was a charge on our shared credit card that made my blood run cold. A consultation fee for Daniels and Associates, divorce attorneys. My hands shook as I called him. Straight to voicemail. I texted frantically, "James, please call me. We need to talk. Don't do anything drastic. I love you." He didn't respond to any of them. I spent the day in a panic, unable to focus on work. Dylan noticed immediately. "You okay?" he asked, cornering me by the coffee machine. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "James knows," I whispered. Dylan's face went carefully neutral. "Knows what?" "About us, about last night." "There is no us," Dylan said, his voice different now, cooler. "We're friends who had a moment. These things happen." The casual dismissal stung more than James's silence. "A moment? What did you think this was, Victoria? You're married. I'm not looking for complications." He walked away, leaving me standing there with a cold cup of coffee and the realization that I'd risked everything for a man who saw me as a convenient distraction. That night, he came home at his usual time, went through his usual routine, gave me his usual nothing. But I saw it now, the way he'd already separated himself from me, from us. He wasn't being cold. He was being gone. "I saw the credit card charge," I said over dinner. He looked up briefly. "Okay." "Okay, that's all you have to say?" "What would you like me to say?" "That you're not thinking about divorce, that we can work this out, that you still love me." He set down his fork with careful precision. "Would that change anything?" "Yes. James, I made a mistake. I've been distant, I know that. But we can fix this." "Can we?" He studied me with those brown eyes that used to hold such warmth. "Tell me about Dylan." The name hit like ice water. "What?" "Dylan Cade, new accounts director, the one from the party." My mouth went dry. "He's a colleague." "Is he?" "Yes, we work together, that's all." James pulled out his phone, swiped a few times, then slid it across the table. Screenshots, our lunch receipts on the company card, late-night Uber charges from downtown, a photo someone had taken of Dylan and me at the wine bar, his hand on mine. "I'm not naive, Victoria. I'm just quiet." "It's not what it looks like." "Please don't." His voice was tired now. "Don't insult what's left of us with lies." "Nothing happened," I insisted, a half-truth that felt like a whole lie. One kiss wasn't nothing, but it wasn't the affair I knew he was picturing either. "Something happened," he said, taking his phone back. "You chose to spend time with another man while I sat here wondering what I'd done wrong. You chose to seek comfort from someone else instead of fixing what was broken between us. You chose him, Victoria, over and over, in small ways and big ones. You chose him. You pushed me away." "Did I, or did I just stop chasing you after you'd already started running?" The truth of it hit hard. James hadn't started the silence. He'd responded to it. To all the times I'd come home late without explanation, to all the texts I'd hidden, to all the attention I'd given everywhere but home. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "James, I'm so sorry I fucked up. But I love you. I choose you." "Now you do. Because the alternative became real." He stood, plate still half full. "But you didn't choose me when it mattered, and I can't pretend that doesn't change everything." He walked upstairs, and I heard the guest room door close. The first time he'd officially slept apart from me. I cut off all contact with Dylan that night, blocked his number, avoided him at work. Made it clear whatever we'd started was over. He took it well. Too well, actually. Like I was just another married woman who'd gotten cold feet. Like he'd been through this before. "Your loss," he said when I told him in person. "But hey, if things don't work out with the husband..." The casual cruelty of it made me sick. This was who I'd risked my marriage for? This was the excitement I'd thought I was missing? But the damage was done. James had made his decision, and nothing I did changed it. I tried everything. Therapy appointments he wouldn't attend, love letters he wouldn't read, promises he wouldn't believe. He moved through the divorce process with the same quiet efficiency he'd done everything else. No drama, no scenes, just systematic untangling of 7 years. "I don't understand," I said the day he moved out. "How can you just walk away?" He paused at the door, boxes in hand. "I walked away the night of the party, Victoria. You just didn't notice for 2 months." "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "It wasn't." The divorce was final 6 months later. James was generous, giving me the house and the settlement. An empty gesture, since I couldn't afford to keep it alone. He didn't ask for alimony despite making less than me. He took his things, his dignity, and his silence, leaving me with everything I thought I wanted. Freedom, independence, the chance for excitement. Dylan transferred back to Chicago 2 weeks after my divorce was final. Didn't even say goodbye, just gone. Probably chasing another married woman who'd fall for his attention. My friends tried to set me up, but every date felt hollow. These men were either too much like Dylan, all flash, no substance, or too much like James, solid, good, taken. I found out through social media that James had started dating a teacher named Colleen who ran marathons and volunteered at animal shelters. In the photos, he looked lighter, younger. He smiled the way he used to smile at me, before I taught him that his love wasn't enough. Last month, I saw them at the farmer's market. James was helping her pick peaches, laughing at something she said. When he saw me, he nodded politely, the way you acknowledge someone you used to know. No anger, no longing, just recognition and distance. "Hi, Victoria," he said. "James?" I couldn't look at her, this woman who'd figured out what I'd been too stupid to see. "You look good." "Thanks, you too." Lies and politeness, all we had left. I wanted to say more, to apologize again, to tell him I understood now what I'd thrown away, that his quiet love had been worth 1,000 Dylan Cades, that I'd trade every moment of excitement for one more morning of him bringing me coffee in bed. But he was already turning away, his hand gentle on Colleen's back, guiding her toward the next vendor. She glanced back at me once, not with triumph or pity, just curiosity about the woman who'd let him go. As they walked away, I heard her say something that made him laugh. A real, unguarded laugh. The kind he used to share with me before I'd taught him to be silent. She reached up and fixed his collar. Such a simple gesture of care that it broke something inside me. That used to be my job, my privilege, my man to take care of. I left the market without buying anything, drove home to my empty house, and sat in the kitchen where James used to make Sunday breakfast. The silence I'd once craved now felt suffocating, but it was mine now, earned through every choice I'd made, every text I'd sent, every boundary I'd crossed. They say you don't know what you have until it's gone. But I knew. I knew James was good and steady and mine. I just convinced myself I deserved more, right up until I got exactly what I deserved. Nothing but regret and the echo of my heels walking toward the wrong man. The green dress still hangs in my closet. I can't wear it, can't throw it away. It's a reminder of the night I had everything and started the process of losing it all. The night James saw me clearly for the first time in years and decided without a word that I wasn't worth watching anymore. He was right. I wasn't. But by the time I figured that out, he was already gone, and all the words in the world couldn't fill the silence I'd created.